In this continuation of Module 4, we will now be looking at classification by subject analysis. In the previous part of Module 4, we were talking about the differences between an uncontrolled and a controlled vocabulary, and the fact that in the process of classification, when you are doing cataloging of items, you are involved in using a preferred list of terms, either the Library of Congress subject headings or the Sears list, which is a controlled vocabulary list. And when you are doing classification by subject analysis, what you are doing is looking at the intellectual contents of an item, what an item is about, and trying to find a place for it in your library catalog by subject, because that is one of Cutter's rules. Using a controlled vocabulary to classify an item enables all like items in your collection to be described using the same words. And so when you do an OPAC search using a controlled vocabulary term, theoretically you will bring up all the items in your collection related to that search. Using a controlled vocabulary creates a list of preferred terms that users can be referred to through references. And it uses common terms to describe different items. And usually the controlled vocabulary lists are listed in alphabetical order, and they are available either in print or searchable online. Typically, subject headings will be included in the cataloging and publication information on the inside of a book. And we call the inside page of a book the verso page. And you'll see all kinds of information there, including the title, often the Dewey number, and also the subject terms. So when you're looking at items and when you're exploring this area of classification and subject analysis, take a look at some books, nonfiction books and fiction books. Look at the verso page and see how those items are classified and decide whether or not you agree. So generally, when you are beginning subject analysis, which is what this part of cataloging is called, when you're doing subject analysis to classify an item, to find a place for it in your library collection, what you do is you don't have to read the entire book. You review the item, the table of contents, the summary, the introduction, and then you ask yourself and think a bit about what the item is primarily about. Because what this item is primarily about will be the main subject heading for the item, and that's very important for nonfiction items because the main subject heading determines the classification number. In other words, the Dewey classification. Now, if an item is about multiple topics, there can be additional headings, but you really have to decide what that main subject heading is. And then once you have an idea about that, you look for that subject heading in Sears or in the Library of Congress. In this class, we will be using Sears for all subject headings and Library of Congress only for personal names. Now, as I said before, in this class we will be using two sources for our subject headings. One is Library of Congress, and two is Sears subject headings. Now, catalogers also supply their own subject headings to a library catalog, but they first must consult the Library of Congress or Sears. Oftentimes, school librarians will find that neither Sears nor the Library of Congress have appropriate subject headings because these subject headings are really designed for adults. They're not designed well for children, and so it's difficult for children to find information using only the subject heading lists. But that you have the ability with your library catalog system to add new subject terms to your list, so you can create your own local authority file, and this would be very helpful when your children are doing research projects. You can consult with the teacher, you can develop a list of vocabulary words surrounding the research topics, and you can build that in to your library collection, and so then the students can go to the OPAC and search for information. They don't have to go first to Google. Now, the Sears list of subject headings was written by Minnie Earl Sears many years ago, and is the standard list of subject headings for school and public libraries. Just a couple of years ago, we were lucky enough for Wilson Web to have made this very important resource available online, so students no longer have to spend $100 to buy the print version. Typically, the order for Sears subject headings is topical, geographic, chronological, and form. Subject headings are often made up of topical terms, geographic terms, form terms, proper names. Sometimes they are single words, sometimes they are multiple word subject headings. All of these are designed to convey a topic or idea. Typically, a topical term is a subject. A geographic term is a place. Proper names are the given names of people, and forms are the type of item that it is, either a dictionary, an encyclopedia, could be poetry, or literary collections. So, for example, there is a particular order that you have to list the subject headings in when you're using main subject headings and then subdivisions, and that order is topical first, geographic second, chronological third, and form last. Oftentimes when you're beginning classification, you put the form first, like encyclopedia or atlas, but the form is always last. The topical heading is always first. So, for example, if we have a book about the prehistoric cats of North America, which is an atlas, the main subject heading will be prehistoric animals, with the subdivision wild cats, a geographic subject heading North America, and a form subject heading atlas. Now, with the Library of Congress subject headings, very similar to Sears, because the Sears subject list was based on the Library of Congress subject headings, with modifications for library collections that were meant for young people and collections that were very general. The organization of the Library of Congress subject authority files, like the Sears list, is alphabetical. And the valid subject headings are labeled as authorized, and then the references enable you to see what the subject headings are often linked to if one subject heading term is used for other terms, and then also to look at valid terms and invalid terms, wider terms and narrower terms. And topics are often narrowed in Library of Congress by subdivisions much more than in Sears. And the area of the Library of Congress which has these subject headings is called the Library of Congress Authorities. And so, for example, if there is a book about the blast effects of atomic bombs in Hiroshima, Japan, you will have a subject heading such as atomic bomb with the main subject heading and blast effect as the subdivision. If you have a book about the folk tales of Perry County, Kentucky, you will have a topical main heading of tales, a geographic subdivision, Kentucky, and then another geographic subdivision, Perry County. If you have a book about the Trail of Tears, that the Cherokee Indians had to march on in the 19th century. Then you will see a topical subject heading such as Cherokee Indians and a subdivision removal. These are all authorized subject headings from the Library of Congress. Now, the Library of Congress has created subject headings for children, and these can be added to your list of subject headings. For example, there's a book about the removal of the Cherokee Indian tribes from the southeastern United States in the 1830s called Trail of Tears. If you think about what this book is about, it's about the Cherokee Indians during a particular time period. You will find, if you search in the Library of Congress subject authorities, you will find Cherokee Indians with a subdivision relocation. There's a children's heading for this. There's also a children's heading for Trail of Tears with 1838 to 1839 as chronological application. Now, there are online resources for the subject analysis, which we will be looking at later in another part of this module. Again, the Sears list of subject headings is available from the WKU Libraries databases, and we will look how to get there. This is the primary source for school librarians, and it's very important that you read the front matter, which is on the home page of the Sears headings database, and a link to this is located in our Module 4 area of Blackboard. And then for the Library of Congress, you have authorities.loc.gov, and we will be using the Library of Congress records for personal name headings and for uniform titles. Now, we'll talk a little bit about teaching subject access, because this is a very important part of the information search process, and it should be taught to children starting at the earliest ages, because they will start, as they are exploring everything in their world, they're also exploring the internet as soon as they're able to type and or point and click with a mouse. So online library catalogs allow you to search using a variety of methods, but children and adults, they often struggle with catalog searches as opposed to the internet, which uses a more natural language, keywords, or tagging. So adults are used to getting a lot of hits with Google, but not always what they're specifically interested in. This time often causes frustration with students as they're searching for appropriate resources. So you can direct them to the online catalog or OPAC and help them narrow their searches by using subject headings. Using subject headings help users narrow their search questions and increase the precision of their search results, and it helps them understand and expand their vocabulary related to their research topic. Many find searching by subject headings awkward because the terminology is not user-friendly. Sometimes it's outdated. Sometimes the terms that you want to use do not exist in the controlled list. For example, when I was doing my dissertation, I was looking for video and not finding any hits. But when I started entering videotape, which is an older term, I started getting lots of hits. Many students and adults won't take the time to develop their research question and then look for appropriate subject headings. And this is especially difficult for children because they do not really have the vocabulary developed for very sophisticated subject searchings. So using subject headings to search for information is a very important information inquiry skill. It's definitely a part of the Common Core standards. It's probably a part of your state or district curriculum if it's aligned with the Common Core standards. For example, I just looked at the Common Core Anchor standards for English and Language Arts and Writing, and there is a standard called Research to Build and Present Knowledge, Standards 7, 8, and 9.